games with knights, games with ghosts, an unexpected FD, and a crossover Otome game. These surely are some spooky and surprising announcements. We finally got a reveal of the voice cast of that Tsutsui game, where the MC is the third princess of a country but living far away from her family, cursed and with a strange mark on her forehead, harboring a special power. And she then gets assigned inexperienced knights. And it really gives off an extreme fairy tale princess and knight feeling. It looks very lighthearted and funny, as I'm still not quite convinced by the art style personally, and the only really famous voice actor who is involved is Alain from Cupid Parasite. But the scenario writer also was involved in Tokichi Kage no Apocalypse and Charade Maniacs, so I think if you're interested in a pure fluffy game, that might be the game for you. Then on the 10th of November we have a port of a mobile game I2, mixing visual novel and rhythm games. I have already talked about Sympathy Kiss in my last announcement video, revealing the indeed impressive voice cast, and we now have the release date for the 17th of November. The art is quite controversial, to put it like this. I think many players are indeed put off by the faceless heroine, though I think they managed to make the CG still look beautiful, changing the viewing angle or changing the situation so you don't need to see her face, but still there was at least one creepy mobile faceless CG. Don't ask me why they do that. Yet the art is unarguably pretty and the voice cast promising. And what is also promising is that the game will have a pseudo D ranking. And considering it's in an office setting, I don't expect it to be due to blood, but rather due to steamy romance, what then might be the unique selling point of this game for us all thirsty Otome gamers. Since the last time I talked about Money Parasite, the end of that video, we also now have a release date for the 22nd December and the release of the voice cast. Amir will be voiced by the same voice actor as Goemon in Tengoku Struggle or Adolf in Shuuen no Virche. Jeremiah is voiced by Hugo in Shuuen no Virche, and he will also voice Rokuro in Sympathy Kiss. Kagami Fuma also voiced Mattis in Shuuen no Virche, and Kohaoren also voiced Eon in Radiant Tale. Please make more games with him! And on the website you now find hints to some mini-games. Also releasing on the 22nd December, just like the port of the Utano Prince-sama All-Star After Secret FD, is a port of 3 PC games combined in one, called Majestic Magical, adding a 7th route for the butler. Lapis is a daughter of a prestigious family of magicians, but she seems severely untalented and has a hard time attending the magic school. Thus she decides to take on a challenge to create a magical gem born by strong feelings in a human's heart. For this reason, she goes to the human world where she has to deal with a handful of boys. This game is by an otherwise unknown studio, but still surprises with beautiful art and a stellar voice cast, like Benkei from Bidoshana, Kei from CollarxMalice, Nayuta from Burial Barricade, or Nicola from Pure Fiore. Sad that each route is rather short and shallow with not much plot, so all that is left for you to enjoy are the character interactions. Now coming to the newly announced Switch games. Starting with 2 ports advertised as timeless masterpieces. Both are by the same scenario writer as what I like to call the Satoi Steamy Collection, those games, Olympia Soiree, Let Midari no Tenmin, and Tengoku Struggle. One of them is Senjo no Waltz, where the MC obtains a magical sword after her village was burned and parents killed, and thus she has to be trained in a military academy. This game is more than a school setting than an actual fighting setting, and more about finding out the character's secret and their traumas, so it's really more like a classical character-driven game. I have only played 1 route so far, and I think what I would criticize the most of the game is the pacing. It has an awfully long common route where nothing happens, and this nothingness continues in the character routes until the last few minutes where everything happens. Though the love story was nice, I couldn't really relate to it, and the solution at the end felt extremely rushed. But it is already more than a year ago that I've played it, and I might change my opinion once I play the other routes. And it definitely has some more darker and tragic scenes when it comes to the characters. But overall it has more of a slice of life feel to it, and is silly enough that you can even date the spirit of the sword. The voice cast is not too bad, with the voices like Riku from Love or Pretend, or Dante from Pio Fiore, or Luca from Arcana Familia. I haven't played and haven't heard much about Princess Arthur, but looking it up, it turned out my favorite voice actor voices in an eye, so guess you will get a review about that soon as well. This follows the well-known King Arthur story. Whoever can pull the sword will be king. And this time around it's an ordinary girl, being king without knowing what is going on, having to suddenly fight, and being surrounded by the Knights of the Round Table. And these knights are Galahad, who is voiced by the same voice actor as Young, in Pure Fiore, you kind of get why I'm interested in that game, is the young and rather feminine knight, who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and is snobby and has no high regards for others. Gawain is blunt and ill-mannered, but nevertheless loyal to the MC. Having lost his sisters in battle, he aims at becoming the strongest knight, but has a bit of an inferiority complex in regards to Lancelot. And he also voiced Vince in Jaco no Lila and Iki in Amnesia. Lancelot is the leader of the Knights of the Round Table and the strongest among them. He is calm and thoughtful and the perfect gentleman knight, voiced by Ignis in Café Enchanté, or Chihido in Lycolithiais. Tristan is a veteran knight and unimpressed by that young girl suddenly being queen. At night, he seems to have strange businesses sneaking around. And that odd fellow, and I'm really glad there's a bit like a more mature, older looking guy around. He is voiced by the same voice actor as Enma in Tengoku Struggle. And I think that will make a lot of people happy because Enma is so cool and his voice actor is so amazing. So yeah, guess we can date him now. Mordred is a smooth flirt, what makes it hard to tell at times which moves on the heroine are actually genuine. And oh, that guy also voiced Shuuen in Shuuen no Virche. I mean, like, why does this game have to have such an amazing voice cast? Will I really end up having to buy it? Lastly, Merlin unlocks, who is a wizard who motivated the MC to take the sword. He could be a man to admire, but sadly he rather indulges in cheap pick-up lines and naughty behavior. And he also naughtily voiced Enishi in Kengagimi. I think the reviews of Princess Arthur are a bit more positive than for Senju no Waltz. It is supposed to have more plot and twists, while the romance is taking a backseat. Also, you cannot really count on historical accuracy here. And similarly to Senju no Waltz, the abilities of the heroine, like her being the queen, aren't really the focus of the game. And I think it's fair to say that the PSP art didn't age well. I mean, it's by no means ugly, just very PSP. But the voice cast is quite impressive, to my wallet's disadvantage. And I think that they chose these games to port is quite surprising. Maybe it's because of the scenario writer, or they want to have an Otome collection with the Legends of the Swords. Something like that. Because both games are advertised in one trailer, which kind of makes me think that they might want to release it as one game. You know, like on one cartridge. So you get 2 old games the price of 1 new game, which is an okay deal, I think, if they indeed decide to publish it as one game, which would be nice, I think, as Princess Arthur never was officially ported to the Vita, and the localized app just vanished from existence. And I mean, it's quite a surprise I even know Senju no Waltz. And of course I will do you the favor to excavate it from my pile of forgotten trash games and early sins, as I only bought it as it was cheap, what rarely is a good sign. But I guess now I can make a review about it someday. So you can decide for yourself whether this potential sword collection will be worth it. So now coming to the totally new Switch announcements. Most surprising to me is the Shuuen no Virche fan disc, now described as Eternal Salvation instead of Eternal Despair. That's literally all we know. And I think everyone who's played the game is kind of wondering, like, how? How will they make an FD coming from some of these good endings? Like, it's impossible. The trailer says something down the line that after all the losses and demise, the story now turns into a story of salvation as they keep on loving the girl called Goddess of Death. So my wild speculation would be that they maybe rewrite bits of the first game and try to solve the problems that caused all the demise in some character routes as well. The base game was too plot driven for me, so I guess the FD is a good thing. Hopefully adding some romance and some really good endings, not these wannabe good endings. Though I personally wouldn't have needed it, I think it's a good thing. Kinda. And with the main game being localized, I think there's always a chance then for the FD to be localized as well. Next, we have an interesting crossover game called My Nine Swallows Top Stars League, where the MC has to train a rookie baseball team for a championship. And if I understand the trailer right, it is indeed like a cooperation between the Tokyo Swallows, the baseball team, and Otomate, and a mess-up of baseball meets entertainment show. Well, interesting, I guess. Wonder how that will turn out. But it definitely looks like a light-hearted and funny game, but happiness makes me gag. Look at her happy smile, it's disgusting. On to the next game. We then get finally more information about the 2019 announced Spade no Kuni no Alice Wonderful Black World, so kind of the sequel to the Wonderful White World. In the release of last year, Alice was in the White World, this year in the Black World. what can I say? A long ongoing franchise about Alice falling down the rabbit hole into a symbolic and twisted fairy tale, where it's apparently best to start playing from the beginning, like from the first game, 2010 or what. But if you want to get into the franchise now, I think Wonderful White World would be a good place to start. And then lastly, a very exciting title, 9-RIP. With the artist Yuya and with at least a spooky, if not even a horror setting, alluding to well-known Japanese ghost stories. To which ghost story each character might allude, I got from a tweet I link in the description, which was very helpful. Thank you so much. And it's advertised like that. The more unusual the person, the more you fall in love with them. A story for women who want to be pursued in all possible meanings of the word. A curious and strange love story that takes place in various different worlds. Do you know what being spirited away means? It means to suddenly vanish. And that might happen more easily to certain characters. I forgot. Oh right, recently you seemed troubled by the path you took. Are you alright? Why am I at this place? I don't remember anything. The spirits lurking at school. The bloodthirsty killer Katakara-san. Named after the noise of rattling bones. The boy inside of the mirror. That might be about the story where you stand in front of a mirror saying who are you repeatedly until you forget who you are and go insane. Then we have urban legend mysteries. The Mary son who calls you repeatedly, always saying where he is, until in the end, he stays right behind you. The boy who stares at the stars might be based on the girl who looks at the stars, but when you get close, you see she's actually dead. Residents from the other world, the devil who yearns for souls, and the god of hell. I wonder if the god of hell is that story where you die, so where you die, and then there are two paths, to hell or to heaven. In front of each path there's one god. The hell god always lies, the heavens god always says the truth. And you have one question you can ask them. How do you find out which is the right path? Then we have Ayakashi leading a merry life, Kokuri-san, based on a game of table turning, where several people rest their fingers or hands on a rice container, and depending on where it leans, you find an answer like yes, no. In Western culture, you have the alphabet around it and then you spell the answer. And Zashiki Wadiki in training. Those are apparently mischievous ghosts living in storage rooms, throwing things at you. To which of these worlds will you be taken? I think we agree that the trailer alone is extremely spooky and in that regard kind of reminds me of Shuuen no Virche. The scenario writer also has worked on another ghost story visual novel, so guess ghost stories on the topic of this game. With 4 different worlds and 2 respective allies. For me it's already a bit too scary, but I cannot help but be intrigued by the setting. And all the Ayakashi certainly look attractive. Also in the sentence to be pursued, or like haunted or hunted for in all possible meanings of the word is quite intriguing. So will these ghosts be evil spirits? Will they haunt us? Will they hurt us? Will they be yandere? I hope they will. Yeah, but I'm very happy to see another game with Yuya as an artist, because I'm addicted to her art and made it a life goal of mine to buy all her games. Like Cupid Parasite, Hanayaka Nani, Tengai ni Mau, Cafe Oshonte. So for me, I guess at least the artist will be the reason to buy the game, even if that means I will never play it before bedtime. But judging from the reactions, I think for many this game is already a must-buy. Then there was another new project teasered with the voice actor of Silva in Hamafura, or Takeru in CollarxMalice. So more projects are to come, who would have guessed? And then we actually got a real teaser for the CollarxMalice anime movie. So no series like so often with Amnesia and Code Realize, but a movie probably focusing on the true root. But so far it's only planned to be a theatrical release in Japan, what would mean you would have to fly to Japan and go to the cinema if you want to watch that movie. My expectations aren't very high, as I'm often not super pleased with Otome game adaptations, as you can find out in my ultimate showdown comparing Otome games to anime adaptations. But I think the fans are excited, looking forward to Ichika having a voice. And of course anime are always an easy way to get your friends into the genre, right? Sadly, we didn't get an update on the Cupid Parasite fan disc, and considering that the artist is also engaged with the 9-RIP game, I think we should expect that either of these 2 games will only be released 2024, but that's just a guess. And on the other hand, we got a teaser trailer for the Bustafella Season 2. And if you want to know more details about that Tsuitsui game or Sympathy Kiss, then watch this video next. And as always, thanks to my patrons and members for supporting me in every way they can.